Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to you. Thank you for joining us at this very first webinar of a series, which comes as a follow-up to some of the work that's going on at the UN Innovation Network as part of the Chief Executives Board effort as well. My name is Robert Opp. I'm the Director of Innovation and Change Management at the World Food Programme and also co-chair of the Innovation Network. And I'm going to just very briefly introduce the Innovation Network itself, as well as give some of the background of what has led us up to this point. And then I will turn over to Susan and to the rest of the presenters. So the Innovation Network of the United Nations was created a few years ago, basically in a very organic sense of a few people active in the space, innovators that were looking at different ways of doing things within agencies, within the system, and wanting to share experiences and learnings from our work, our respective work. And we've basically grown organically by meeting together periodically, sharing best practices, driven by topics raised by members themselves. And we've actually grown to over 500 members of the Innovation Network across 50 UN entities. As I mentioned, that started about 3 years ago. But recently we've received, I would say, a lot more attention and momentum coming out of the Secretary General's particular interest in frontier technologies and innovation more generally. So the Secretary General has been very clear about his priority for innovation. He has a very strong interest in how the UN is responding to frontier technologies, and to that end, he has been working with his office on creating a strategy for new technologies, which has various components of it, all to support the UN secretariats and the UN system's overall ability to respond to new frontier technologies. That has also come with the launching of a high-level panel on technology, which was, I'm sure most of you would have seen recently, which is co-chaired by Jack Ma and Melinda Gates. But the Secretary General has also been very interested in ensuring that we are having a discussion system-wide on fostering an innovation culture in the UN. And so at the last Chief Executives Board, which is the board of all executive heads of all UN entities, there were 3 half-day sessions. The first half-day was devoted to world events and overview and discussion on current events. The second was devoted to different themes within the frontier technologies discussion. And the third one was fully devoted to discussing how we can foster an innovative culture within the UN system. And so the Secretary General's question to the UN Innovation Network and to his executive heads is, how can we do more to make the UN innovative as a culture and as a mindset? And during that discussion, the Innovation Network had been asked to organize, together with Deloitte, a session that would really take the executive heads through a discussion on the different components that are necessary for an innovation culture. And those components are on this slide that you can see, which is around building an architecture to promote innovation. So what are the structures and processes that you need to actually facilitate that? Secondly, how to really use partnerships and leverage partnerships when you're building an innovation ecosystem. And the third is how to really create that culture of innovation. And so the CEB session went according to this structure, with Deloitte providing some background information, including some comparison with other industries, and then the UN Innovation Network gathering what we had taken from our members, offering a few recommendations around how the UN could actually move forward and become more innovative. Next slide, please, Susan. And so those recommendations, and there were 12 in total, are actually in very short form on this slide. And in the follow-up presentation that we send out to all of you, we will have a little bit more description around these. But these are the core of what we are doing as follow-up, because after the discussion, when we talked about architectures, structures, partnerships, and culture of innovation, we had a very good discussion, but the Secretary General turned to us and said, thank you, Innovation Network, but we're going to ask you to do more. And one of the things that he wants to ensure is that we are, as a system, discussing how we move forward and keep momentum going on creating an innovation culture. He has asked for also to put together a kind of a sense of toolkit, tools for that the UN system can actually use, and how we can learn from each other to ensure that we're able to kind of build innovation culture. And one of those responses is the way we looked at it is that if we want to go deeper on some of these recommendations, then we would ask the members themselves, people, agencies as part of the Innovation Network, to lead some discussions and go for some deep dives on some of the more important topics related to building an innovation mindset in the UN. And so this is where the idea of the webinar series comes up. And I'm very pleased that UNHCR volunteered to lead this first webinar discussion. I'm very grateful to them. And we're looking for other volunteers to lead subsequent discussions as well. Today is going to really focus on how we source ideas and find ideas for innovation. And I won't get any more into the content than that, because I know that others will. But it's really a chance for us to discuss with each other, present to each other, learn from each other, and really get a sense of what's going on out there as a means of really understanding what we have as capacities in the system now and what we need going forward. Where are the gaps? And then we can understand how we meet those gaps.